of the world. Dear colleagues, I would like to thank you for the participation in our conference. I would also like to thank our American colleagues and our international colleagues for the participation in our conference. Thank you that you have shared your experience and your knowledge. I will move further in the direction of the topic of the previous speakers, but I will go one level below. The colleagues have already discussed the world of the VUCA, so the word is volatile, uncertain, complicated. We know that the world is uncertain. We have been knowing that for 30 years already. I love this quotation from the Harvard Business Review article. They explored 30,000 share companies in the US, and they showed that now the risk of the company to get bankrupt is 6 times higher than 40 years ago. And the risk of the mortality does not depend on the side, age, or sector of the company. It is an accident. We think that the company ceased to exist before their time because they cannot adapt to the growing complexity of their environment. So this is a very global thought. How does it influence our planning? I plan it on a daily basis. How does it influence me? It was the conference from the year 2018. Nick Lynch from the supply chain of the company Shell. You can see this presentation on the website. So here we see the growth rate. Blue, this is the active SKU in the active range of products. Yellow is the absolute volume of sales of lubrication materials in tons, so tonnage. If the tonnage is growing on a low basis, you need much more items in your range. So what does it mean for the forecasting? You must buy raw materials, package. So if their sales share per item is decreasing. So this is VUCA. Certainly, it is much more difficult to do the forecast. They have invested several millions of dollars to have a precise forecast, and before, without all these investments, the forecast was even preciser than now. So the algorithms are quite advanced, but the world has changed, but we still try to manage the systems in the way how we did it before, but the systems are not linear anymore. They are more complicated. So we'll go one level below. Ddmrp. It was a question. There was a question in the chat. What is the sense of the Ddmrp? On Friday morning, we will have an overview of the Ddmrp methodology. So two flows are managed, the information flow and the physical flow, and the reports are based on these two flows. In the classical systems, there are factors which we are used to, and I will try to show you the difference. We have some general manager. He has 3 warehouses and 3 managers of these warehouses, and he would like to have the factor of the warehouse in the amount of 30 days. And warehouse 1 have only few so what is the average turnover of the warehouse? 30 days. Here we have 10, 30, 50. The turnover is again 30, warehouse number 3, 20, 30, 40. So which warehouse is managed on the most effective manner if all other factors are the same? You see that the warehouse number 3 is more stable. There is no surplus, there is no risk of shortage. So if we look at the turnover of the stock, we have average numbers and we do not see the structure of the stock anymore. This is problem number 1. So we will see, we see that we don't have visibility. This is problem number 1. But then even we don't have transparency in our reports, because there are different kinds of reporting on a weekly, monthly, and quarterly basis. This is a big international company. They have some rest of the stock. There was a supply. They sell something within the month. They have a new supply and new delivery, so they sell, they consume. Again, it is sold, and they have a new delivery. And here you see the visualization of a delivery on a daily basis. So if you, this is a seesaw, you know this picture. And for 4 months you will have 120 points. It's difficult to manage that. And if you have more than 1,000 different finished kinds of finished goods, it will be very difficult to manage that. So they try to simplify that. They create a number, a figure for 1 month. So we have further points, and what shall I do with these points? How can I understand if it is good or bad? And in the companies, they have norms for the stock. So we compare these points. We think that we are working in the efficient manner. But if we have a look at this system, not according to the classical approach, but in the light of the Ddmrp, it's all about the flow, like Carol said. So we do not require these 4 discrete points. We need this curve. How can we evaluate the curve? We can work with ranges. We define a range, and here we see that the rest of the stock is optimized. If it's more, a little bit more or less, it's not a problem, but we should see that. If we have risks of shortages below and overstock above, I would like to see that. This is a key difference between a traditional approach when we check the stock once a month and the approach based on the Ddmrp, the evaluation of the physical flow. This is one of the problems why the top managers do not understand. There is a monthly plan, and they do not understand why there are some problems on the production all the time, because they see it like it is presented on the left and the live is like on the right. And also most companies do not have any visualization of this problem, and the operators of the production see that they cannot start something on the production side because they do not have the resources, raw materials. So there is no visibility. If we have security, if you want to have security in the supplies, it should be visible. So these 4 points do not bring us anything. To the right, we have less points, but they are very valuable. So how can we define the norms and compare the turnover. This is clear, but we cannot understand how can we compare the curve, how can we define the ranges. For that, we require buffers. Buffers manage the physical and the informational flow. The regulator of the flow is above green. There is a cycle stock, it is yellow, and there is a security of the flow, this is red. So we defined some optimal stock. It's a kind of range where we see the rest of the stock. This is an ideal state. If you have a little bit less, it's okay, but if we are in the lowest part of red, we can have a shortage quite soon. If our stock is a little bit higher, it's also okay. It means we defined the range. So now we just require the rest of the stock for our certain day, and then we can see where we can have problems. Okay, this is one picture, one set of norms, but how can we understand the condition of the stock, the turnover, and how can I evaluate the system, because it consists of thousands of curves. We cannot evaluate all of them. There is a very simple tool. We take the red range and the yellow range, and we define a target stock. For example, we have 100 units. So for each set of norms, we have some actual rest, and we can convert it into money. Do you remember? The red color is bad. It means shortage. The blue color is also bad. It means a surplus. So the black line is our target inventory. So it's red plus the half of the green. So we have shortages, we have surpluses. So the changing of the colors is the visualization of the structure of the inventory in their dynamics. And then we have other lines. Black line is our targeted inventory, and the violet line is our actual inventory. And here we can see how many savings we can make. So and the other potential, we can raise the level of our service, and we can avoid surpluses. So when we only check the turnover, we don't see the structure of the inventory. If we check the inventory in days, we see some discrete points, but we don't see real problems. But nevertheless, we just try to speed up and improve our current logic of the inventory management. We do not change the logic. We just try to speed up and have more qualitative results. So we have raw materials, semi-finished goods, and finished goods. The time of the reaction of the production amounts to 60 days, and we would like to have the 100% precision. So to do the whole operational cycle, we can do a focus for at least 60 days, because when I have the order, all these previous steps should have already been implemented. And we know the more future-oriented the forecast is, is, the less precise the forecast is. So the forecast is not that qualitative anymore, and there is a gap between our thoughts and the demand, actual demand of the market. So we have surpluses, we have shortages, and we can implement urgent supplies and not on time deliveries. So we will have to have a lot of tables with calculations. We work on Excel every day a lot. This system is very fragile. Why? It will work only under two conditions: when there are no deviations, but we know the more dependent chain links we connect, the more risk we have that the system will not work. There will be shortage, there will be a defect of the production, somebody will let you down. So even if the forecast was effective, there is a risk that the result will not be a desired one. So instead of improving fragile linear system, we require an anti-fragile system. These definitions are from the book of Nassim Taleb, Anti-Fragility. So this cup is nice, but it's fragile. The stone is very hard. You can push it to the floor, nothing will happen. Anti-fragility is the capability to adapt yourself and to become stronger when you are confronted with chaos. So neither stone nor the cup have this system, this capability. Only complex systems and living bodies have this capability. So if you train your body gradually and start with 40, 50 kilos, after 1 month, you will be able to lift 100 kilos. So this is the system of Taleb. It's not possible to manage a complex system based on a linear approach. So there is an example of the regulation of the economics by the state. So the state gives some parameters to be fulfilled. Why? Because the government wants to have a stability, but there is a price for everything. It's stable, and then there is a dropping, and then again it's stable. We cannot forecast the market. We only have some ranges of our possible future location. So we can only understand the corridor, the range, but we cannot forecast a certain point. But here we can forecast the point, but there is a price. This is a ruin. So there is a simple example. Have a look at the rates of currency. You see a fixed rate, and then there is a drop. So the same logic is here on the level of the production. We create a plan for the month. We think that it is stable. We know what we will do on the next day, but this stability is not stability. We will have a drop next month, and we will have to restore it again. And the further we move from the initial point, the less it is connected to the reality. So the situation is even worse when the production manager has a percent of the production as a KPI. So it's not what the market wants to have. So how can we regulate the chaos? As Carol and Derek have already shown, there is a system, there is an approach how you can manage complex adaptive systems. Carol said we should not decompose the level of the strategy. We can be ready for some range. It's not important which point we will achieve, but we require the range. So if our lead time is long here, our reaction is 60 days, and there are risks on all stages. But here we have one complex and one fragile system, and we divide this system into smaller independent systems. Why? So it is easier to plan, to synchronize, because here any failure will lead to the failure of the whole fragile system. If we have a failure here, okay, it will influence the buffer stock here, but the further chain links might not even know about this failure. We have a model, we have some forecast concerning the sales volume, and we do not know what this white line is. This is our expected range. So if we have more sales, we have the buffer for that, and we also have a point which will not allow us to have any surpluses. So because we have a classical planning, we will produce even if we do not have any orders, and here we minimize the risks of surpluses. Here we manage the burden. If we have some problems, we just optimize the process. So Carol and Derek have already mentioned that what is the difference between the traditional model and this new model. The final result of the traditional plan, we have a decomposition. We have a business planning linear regulation, and we go from above to below. And in the Ddmrp, we have a cyclic model, and we adapt all the times. The changes will be faster and faster. Alice said we should have a double speed in order to stay on the same spot. So we will not have a required speed anymore. We should review the whole system. There is a bird from Mauritius. Nobody knew if it existed or not, and then it was proved this bird existed. Why did the bird die? When the settlers arrived with their home animals, the bird was not scared at all, because the bird didn't know any other animals, and it died because of this home animals. So please be anti-fragile and be demand driven.